Hey guys, welcome back to the Socialography YouTube channel where we talk about all things marketing. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to build a target audience. But first, today is Friday, and I don't know if you know what that means. It's time for Marketing Happy Hour, where we drink and we know things. Am I allowed to say that? Am I gonna get a copyright strike? Where we drink and we talk about marketing things. I am drinking a lovely white wine spritzer here. Don't judge me, it's hot out. I wanted something light, cool, and refreshing, and I'm old. If you are watching this on a Friday or any other day of the week, no judgment. Go ahead and pause the video, pour yourself a drink. Also grab a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil on your way back, and let's dive in. All right, I'm ready, Poop's ready, Jax is here now too. Let's get started. So in my last video, we walked through how to use the foolproof formula. And in question number 3, it talks a little bit about your target audience. So if you haven't seen that video, I'm gonna go ahead and link it for you here or down below in the description box. Be sure to check that out. But in today's video, I wanna walk you through my step-by-step process for how I build target audiences for my clients. Now, I'm sure you've heard the term target audience before, or maybe you were even looking up how to build it and that's how you found this video, but you might not understand how truly valuable it is to know who your target audience is. Once you've actually built a target audience, it can be used over and over again when writing social media posts, writing blog posts, sending out newsletters, when crafting a marketing campaign and running ads on platforms like Facebook or Instagram, and the list goes on. So this is one of those foundational exercises that a lot of business owners tend to overlook in the beginning. They don't really think about, all right, who am I talking to? Who do I want to reach and who do I want to communicate with? It's really important to understand who it is you're talking to so you know what to say and how to say it. This allows you to communicate more effectively with the right people who are actually going to be interested in what it is that your business has to offer. All right, so for step number 1 when building your target audience, we're gonna start with the basics. ASL. And if you grew up in the 90s and you had an AOL Instant Messenger account, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't act like you don't. Age, sex, or gender, and location. Listen, I know. I said we would start with the basics, so that's where we're starting. So first off, location. Think about your product or service and whether or not your customer's location matters. So if you offer a service that requires you to be in person with someone or requires you to go to their house, for instance, or you have a brick and mortar storefront, then you're gonna want to include the location that's within a certain radius of where your business is located. But if you're a business that's completely online and can service anyone, then you want to take into consideration factors like which countries you want to target. Do you have to ship items? Can you ship out of country? Do you speak multiple languages? Can you really only interact with people who speak the same language as you? All of these things kind of factor into the location aspect of building our target audience. So take a moment to jot down on your paper which locations you would like to include in your target audience. Next, we're going to talk about age. So the age range of your target audience doesn't have to be super specific, and it might not even be something that you know right now. This might be something that you figure out a little bit down the road. But if your product or service is geared towards someone in a specific age range, then you're going to want to include that. For instance, if you are selling an alcoholic beverage, obviously your age range needs to be 21 and up. It's a super obvious example. So if your business doesn't have a super obvious example of the age range that you're targeting, then try to keep it a little bit more broad, but be logical here. Go ahead and write down the age range that you would like to use for your target audience. Take a drink, and then we'll move on to gender. Okay, so I have my own feelings about gender-based targeting when it comes to marketing, and it has its purpose. I fully understand that there are businesses that have developed products or services for specific people and specific needs, and that is a wonderful thing. But if that is not you and your business, please keep an open mind here about whether or not you decide to target one gender specifically or all genders. I will let you make that call, but go ahead and write that down now. Okay, so once you've identified the basics, let's go ahead and move on to step 2. Okay, step number 2, demographics. These are things like level of education, income level, relationship status, parental status, life events, job title, industry, things like that. And these are important because they offer you another level of targeting that you can include that will help you identify who is most likely going to interact with your business, either on social media, on your website, signing up for your newsletter, or might eventually become a customer. So let's start with education and level of income. Does your business or service require a certain level of education in order for them to do business with you? Do you need someone who has a certain level of income in order for them to do business with you? Do you have a more high-end product, or is it something that really anyone can afford? What about relationship status? Are you targeting couples, or can they be single, or does it really matter? Do they have to be parents? Are you offering a product for children that parents would be interested in? Think about each of these factors and write down anything that applies to your business. Now, you want to be careful here because if it doesn't actually need to apply to your target audience, you don't want to get too narrow in identifying. So if factors like education and level of income aren't going to matter as far as who you're targeting, then don't include them. But you know your business, you know your product. If you are only wanting to target parents, then include that here in the demographics section. Okay, so go ahead and write down all of the factors within the demographics that apply to your business and would apply to your clients. I'm gonna take another sip while you're doing that. What are you drinking? What did you make? Is it a white wine spritzer? Yeah, they're good. No, you made something else? Yeah, I'm just me. Also, if you don't have a drink, that's totally fine. You can do this exercise with water as well. Let me know when you're done. I'm just gonna be here with the wine while you're working. Okay, step number 3, interests. Now, this one is probably the most broad, but arguably the most important category when developing your target audience. So to help you break it down a little bit, I'm gonna provide 3 categories within interests that I want you to identify for your target audience specifically. And those 3 categories are who, what, and where. So let's start with who. What I want you to do is, you can take a second to think about this. You don't have to know off the top of your head. But what I want you to do is think about another super popular influencer, celebrity, TV personality, made-up character, any person that you can think of who also is in your industry. So for instance, let's say you're an interior designer. Who's the first person that comes to mind when we think of interior design, makeovers, home makeovers? Joanna Gaines. That's who I think of, at least. Probably because my mom's name is Joanna, but also she's pretty cool. So that's an example of a personality or a person who is very, very popular in your industry. And I stress very popular because we want this person to have a very large audience. We want to have a very big pool of people that we're targeting based on who this person is. So take a drink. You can ignore me. So take a second to think about who you follow in your industry. If you were to be a customer of yourself, what type of interests would you have that are similar to the services or products that you provide? That's just one example, and really the only one I can think of right now, so I apologize. If you can think of another example in your industry, comment it down below because I want to help people kind of brainstorm here. Okay, so that was the who. Next, we're going to tackle the what. So I want you to, again, take a second. It doesn't have to be anything off the top of your head. You can really think about it for a little bit. But think about another business that is, again, very popular and has a very large following in your industry. So it could be another business or another brand, but it needs to be something at least generally related to your business's industry. And again, make sure it's something that's very popular, very well known, and your target audience would actually be interested in it. So take a second to write that down. It doesn't have to be just one. If you have a few in mind, write them all down. Or if you need a second to think about it, you can pause the video, think about it a little more, maybe do a quick search on Instagram or Twitter to try and get some ideas. But think about at least one other business or brand in your industry that's very popular and very well known. Okay, so we've done the who and the what. Now we're gonna do the where. And this isn't necessarily a location or a place. I want you to think of this as where your target audience is getting their content, their news, or their entertainment. So this could be a blog, a website, a news station, an entire network. This could be a magazine, a newspaper. Think about any source of content, whether it's news or entertainment, that your target audience is likely to consume. Again, it needs to be something very well known, very popular, and with a very large following. So if we're gonna go back to the Joanna Gaines example, your audience would probably also be interested in something like HGTV. We're talking big and popular here. HGTV has a huge following, so we know that there's a very broad audience of people who like HGTV and also like Joanna Gaines. So these are two good examples. However, we don't want to fall into the trap of personal bias. So let's use an example of like a counselor or a psychologist. I have a very good friend who is an amazing counselor, and she and I talk about marketing a lot. But for her, if she were doing this, she could potentially fall into the trap of listing a magazine that she or her fellow therapists would subscribe to or follow on Instagram, for instance. But that doesn't necessarily mean that her potential clients are following or subscribe to that magazine. So a magazine like Psychology Today, I don't even know if that exists. I might be making that up. I don't know. But a magazine like Psychology Today would be geared towards psychologists. So you wouldn't use that magazine as an example if you weren't trying to target other psychologists. Do you get what I'm saying? Maybe use this as an example. If I were to offer you an unlimited budget, this is hypothetical. I'm not offering you an unlimited budget, but hypothetically speaking, if I were to offer you an unlimited budget to place an ad in a magazine, a newspaper, or on a TV network to reach your target audience, which would you choose? And you could only choose one. Now, for this actual exercise, you can choose more than one, but this will just get your brain thinking, okay, if I had as much money as possible to run an ad in any magazine that I could choose to get as many clients as possible, which magazine would I choose? Which TV network would I choose? Which website would I choose? So if you think about it that way, it makes sense that you would target something where your audience is likely to be consuming content. Round two. Okay, so once you've identified those three interest categories, let's move on to step number 4. Okay, so step number 4 is the final step, and keep in mind that this step might not necessarily apply to you, but I wanted to include it just in case, because for some of you it will apply. So step number 4 is what I like to call the exclusion audience, and yep, we gotta cut some people out, unfortunately. Okay, so like I said before, this might not apply to you. But if it does, then what I want you to do is use this as an opportunity to get a little bit more specific. Now, if you have to force it or it doesn't make logical sense, then don't do it yet. But if your product or service specifically serves people with a specific need, and can't serve certain people, then you want to include that in your exclusion audience. Now, this is not an excuse for you to discriminate. This is actual logical application of who your business actually serves. And that's who we want to target here. We want to target the people who your business can actually serve. So sometimes it's super simple. If you're an app builder and your app is only available on an iPhone, then you're not going to want to target people with a Samsung or a Windows phone or whatever other phones are on the market. So something like that is super obvious and super logical. But if it's a little bit more nuanced and you're not really sure, then don't worry about this step. But if it is super obvious and you have the experience to know that there is certain people who are not going to be able to use your product or service, then include that here for step number 4. Okay, so by now you should have identified age, location, gender, demographics, interests, and your exclusion audience. And if you have, then you've just built your target audience, my friend. Cheers to that. Okay, so now what? Well, this is just the beginning, because you can use your target audience for a multitude of things, especially when running marketing campaigns. And keep in mind that you can have multiple target audiences for one business. If you have multiple products, multiple service lines, you might have slightly different audiences that you target for each of those products or services. And you might grow and evolve and learn as your business grows and evolves and learns. And you might want to make adjustments to your target audience. This is just to get you started so that you have a better idea of who it is that you're targeting, who it is that you're communicating with, and this audience translates perfectly into a Facebook ad campaign, which leads me to a small plug. I am in the process of working on an online course that teaches you exactly how to create, launch, and manage a marketing campaign on a platform like Facebook from scratch. So if you've never done it before, if you don't even have a Facebook ad account, this course will teach you exactly what you need to do step by step in order to not only create your campaign, but also physically build it within Facebook, launch it, and then manage it after you've launched it. So I don't just abandon you after you've launched it. I actually help you through the process of managing your campaign, mining your data for diamonds, like we talked about in my first video, and then what to do after you've run your first marketing campaign. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that course or signing up for the waitlist to be notified as soon as it's available, it is 3weekbusinessboost.com. I'll be sure to link it down below for you to sign up if you're interested. And as always, thank you so much for being here and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed our little marketing happy hour. Cheers! I will have more marketing happy hours in the future. I'll also have more videos where we walk through marketing exercises that you can apply to your business specifically. I'll also talk about some of my experience being in the marketing industry, best practices, tips and tricks, etc., etc. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can do marketing for your business, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel more than you know. And I hope to see you in my next video. Cheers!